Mass Effect Andromeda is one of the most disappointing games of 2017. It genuinely feels unfinished, buggy, unoptimized, and I question what BioWare was thinking here. Half of the things that they do just don't make any sense. The game looks like Mass Effect on the surface, but you soon find out that it's just a skeleton. Its heart, mind, and soul have been scooped out and replaced with perplexing, casualized mechanics and tedious micromanagement. That's really what's so disappointing about this game. It has the foundation to be the best Mass Effect game of all time, but BioWare squanders this potential by trying to reinvent the wheel and shipping a game that's obviously unfinished. BioWare scraps many of the best features we know and love from past Mass Effect games and past BioWare games, and instead they inject a weird experimental system that needlessly complicates gameplay. It's a very strange feeling. This game is built around a dichotomy. It's so conflicting. It's beautiful, but also hideous. Fun, but also very tedious. Streamlined, but also clunky and awkward. And fun is gated off by a distinct bullshit barrier that takes time and effort to penetrate. That's pretty much the underlying point here. Everything good that this game does is countered by two bad things. For every step forward it takes 2 steps backward. It's almost like a turd on a tiramisu. Every bite is both delicious and horrible at the same time. But the good elements aren't always separate from the bad. In fact, they're always blended and intertwined. That's really what makes this game so bizarre. As soon as you start having fun, a barrier pops up and the game reminds you that it's unfinished. So if you were expecting the next great space opera, look elsewhere. You're not going to find it here. So let's talk about some of the things that bothered me the most. First, starting out with combat. Mass Effect Andromeda's combat is both great and terrible. This duality pretty much applies to everything about this game. Having fun in the game is conditional on how you break through its multitude of barriers. One of the biggest barriers is also one of the game's biggest strengths: freedom. BioWare unlocks all skills to let us customize our builds. This can actually work against the player. The problem is that you have 24 different skills across 3 different trees, but you don't know which ones are good. There's no way to try the skills out beforehand, so you never know what the right combos. Having fun in combat and progressing through the game requires a decent build with skills that synergize well with one another, or else you'll just die. The biggest problem I have with the combat is we only get 3 different skills to use. That's right, 3 skills. So we get access to 24 different abilities across 3 different trees, but we only get to use 3 skills at any given time. There's no wheel letting you swap between the skills you've unlocked like in other Mass Effect games. Only getting 3 skills interrupts gameplay and forces players to find that perfect combination of abilities quite soon. But finding that combo takes time and effort. There's no guarantee your build will be any good, and you might just waste your time. When I started this game, I felt like I was constantly being punished for using cross-class synergies that just didn't work out. The game seems to work against you for experimenting. Also, barrier and tech armor no longer stack on top of one another. All shield abilities just replace your normal shield, and they're auto-casted, so no more shield barrier casting. I loved stacking all forms of shielding in previous Mass Effect games, but BioWare just scrapped that feature altogether. The skill loadouts get even worse when you try to do combos. Skill combos take 2 skills to trigger, a primer and a detonator. So to trigger one combo, you have to use 2 of your precious 3 skills. Sure, you can do cool stuff like use pull and throw and charge on an enemy, but you've just wasted all 3 of your available skills on a single combo. Having to wait for your skills to cool down is frustrating when you have so few. And it reminds you just how weirdly imbalanced this game is. The game also likes to withhold key information from you. For example, you can actually trigger combos using special ammo and melee weapons. Cryo, Destructor, and Incinerator ammo will all prime combo detonators, and Cryo Fists can detonate combos. The game never tells you this. I love it when games just don't explain key parts of the combat to me. BioWare tries to fix this limited loadout with its favorites wheel. But in true BioWare fashion, this fix just brings its own set of problems. Now, the favorites wheel allows you to lock in 4 customized skill loadouts. The idea here is switching out combinations of skills for certain situations. such as boss battles. Since every loadout has 3 skills, and the favorites wheel gives you 4 loadouts, you technically have access to 12 skills at any given time. But here's the biggest problem. Skills that you switch with the favorites bar aren't instantly usable. You have to wait for them to cool down. So if you've used up all your biotic skills and need to fire off a quick combo from your tech loadout, you gotta wait. You're at a big disadvantage when swapping skills with the favorites bar, and you basically have to evade or wait behind cover before you can start fighting again. That's real fun, right? This seriously interrupts the flow of the game, and it betrays the fast-paced shooter feel the game was going for. The game has a very real identity crisis going on here. Combat is meant to appeal to mainstream gamers, but your average Call of Duty fan may not have the patience to deal with the skill micromanagement, upkeep, and having to wait for the skills to cool down when you're switching with the favorites bar. Yes, this freedom adds strategy, but it's extremely conditional strategy. You have to be willing to experiment, make mistakes, and potentially waste your time respeccing when builds turn out badly. This is no different from a lot of RPG games, but this game, the way that the combat is balanced, it genuinely feels like it's punishing you when things turn out just terribly. All of this feels like work, not really like a game. We get access to a ton of skills that have to be micromanaged with presets, profiles, other synergy skills, passives. I spent way too much time in menus with my Jack of all trades build, assigning skills to the favorites bar, customizing everything. It just felt tedious. Combat can be extremely rewarding and fun, but only when you know what you're doing. Once you find that perfect combination of skills, the game actually opens up and is quite fun because you're actually killing things and progressing. But at the same time, I feel like I'm in stasis right now. The game has really taught me not to experiment or stray too far from multiple skill trees. I've mastered my main biotic skills, and soon I won't have a direct skill upgrade path. I literally don't even want to take the time or risk wasting my skills messing with other abilities. This is not something that I expected to feel in a Mass Effect game. The combat just feels awkward. It is satisfying and enjoyable, but only after you penetrate the threshold, and the threshold is frustrating on all these different levels. The game needs to be optimized properly, and it needs to be balanced properly, and right now, it's not. Now let's talk about your squad, and holy hell has BioWare butchered your squad in this game. I'm not even talking about the personalities of the squad mates, I'm talking about how they act in combat. It's like BioWare just carved out some of the best features of Mass Effect games and left a giant gaping hole. Previous BioWare games gave us complete control over our squad, right down to battle behavior and extremely specific spell casting conditions. All of that is gone. It's as if BioWare has just completely forgotten some of the magical elements that made their old games great. Why give control over half of your combat presence? Let's just automate things. It's easier that way, right? Let's just water them down, casualize everything. What control you are given of your squad is reminiscent of Halo 5's garbage team controls. You basically use the D-pad to issue horribly basic commands like calling your squad to specific locations, telling them to attack certain enemies, and recall them to a certain position. That's pretty much it. There's no behavior profiles, no custom skill conditions, just basic D-pad controls straight out of Halo 5. Early Mass Effect games treated your squad as an extension of yourself. They were part of you in battle. They were your backup. They were your trusted allies. I loved being able to manually trigger awesome combos with my squad, and we always dished out tremendous damage, but not in this game. You get to level your squad up and choose what skills they have access to, but you don't get to actually control when they use their skills. This is a huge problem, especially since we only have 3 skills that we can use at any given time. If we were given control over our actual squad mates, that would make our 3 skill maximum much more palatable. Now since the AI is so terrible and haphazard, your team will often waste their skills on half-dead enemies anyway. You can combo off your squad skills, but it's a nightmare because you never know when they're going to cast their skills. I feel like I'm supposed to combo off my own skills, my own 3 skills. My squad genuinely makes me feel like I'm alone on the battlefield. The squad mates are watered down caricatures that don't contribute very much when things get hot. They hardly ever save me, and oftentimes even interrupt my shield or life leech regenerations by killing my targets. This severely hampers my character immersion. How can I like PB if she's a dumbass that constantly wastes her skills on half-dead enemies? How can I like Cora if she just constantly refuses to attack enemies whenever I tell her to? This isn't why I play BioWare games. I want strategy, I want tactical squad-based combat. I want a team that I can control and that isn't constantly doing dumbass things. But I guess that's really too much to ask for here. Exploration in this game is mostly unrewarding, monotonous eye candy. Yes, the planets are absolutely beautiful, and yes, they are spectacles of another faraway sci-fi world. But the real problem here is they're just so tedious and boring. They feel just so dead. BioWare says that it's learned a lot from Dragon Age Inquisition, and that they would apply those lessons to Mass Effect Andromeda. But they clearly either lied or just failed badly. They say it's not open world, but the game falls into the same traps, peppering the map with tons of icons and overwhelming the player with tons of things to do. I honestly feel like I'm playing an Ubisoft game here, or worse, Dragon Age Inquisition. What's even worse is the game actively punishes you for exploring the planet. While exploring Eos and Havarl, driving around the Nomad and running around and actually looking for secrets, I found a bunch of areas that led into a dead end. These areas were locked off behind quest lines, but of course I didn't find that out until I'd wasted my time getting to the dead end itself. I spent so much time backtracking to these areas that I had already discovered so I could complete quests. And why? Just EXP, that's all I got. Most of the planet's side quests feel like a waste of time. BioWare said that they tried to make Witcher 3 style side quests. Either they lied, or they actively failed, just like they did with the Dragon Age Inquisition line. These quests really aren't organically woven into your journey on the planet. They just feel like icons on the map. The missions just don't feel real or rewarding enough, and sometimes you just skip them. Now every planet has the same one-dimensional formula. Roaming around blindly to unlock fast travel points, while trying not to die from hazard damage. Unlocking a bunch of little side missions, which serve as constant distractions to your main goal. Fighting one-dimensional enemies, finding the vaults to reverse the weather damage, and scanning and picking up a ton of materials. That is another huge problem, and another huge indicator that BioWare has learned nothing from Dragon Age Inquisition. You have to scan all sorts of things, and if you don't get the research points to spend in research and development, which is a huge portion of the game. You also have to collect materials to build items, such as weapons, armors, all kinds of stuff. So you're actively encouraged to do monotonous and tedious things just like you were in Dragon Age Inquisition. They've learned nothing. The hazard damage is idiotic, and life support systems just get in the way. New planets have environmental damage, heat, cold, radiation, etc. that drain your life support just like No Man's Sky. It's right out of No Man's Sky, and that's not good. If you're caught in the middle of nowhere with no life support, you just die. All of this just gets in the way as another artificial barrier that impedes your progress. Forward operating bases restore life support, so you have to unlock these points to progress. The hazard damage is removed once you fix the planet by going the remnant vaults. They're usually far away and require a fair bit of exploration. So if you try to go from one point to the map to another point without unlocking the forward operating bases, you just die from the hazard damage. This game is just too open in the wrong kind of way. Right now I just have way too much stuff to do, and I feel like I'm ticking off objectives on a giant list rather than playing an awesome space opera. None of it feels worthwhile. and the only things that justify my actions are dialogue affirmations from NPCs, EXP and AVV points, and the ability to move forward. But if moving forward just means I have to do more of the same rote formula, I'm not too enthusiastic about continuing playing this game. I also have to say that the compass bar is horrible. Give us mini-maps. I hate the map screen itself. It's very confusing. The objectives are not clearly listed sometimes, and the multi-tiered level approach is absolutely ridiculous. BioWare, you're better than this. We know you're better than this. We know you can do better. You gotta fix this because right now it's just bad. Mass Effect Andromeda's faces are terrible. The animations are awful. They look inhuman, they look like emotionless androids, and it really does break the character immersion. It makes you feel like you're playing an unfinished game, which is the exact opposite of what you want to feel when you pay $64 for a new game. BioWare, what did you do, man? What did you do here? And it's hard to even describe it, you just kind of have to see it. It's something you have to see, it's like a nightmarish creation. It's such a bizarre thing, and it's obviously unfinished. No one's ever going to forget this. I don't think BioWare could even fix this if they want to. They would have to release a series of patches just focused on this. But man, are they bad. They're really bad. So if Mass Effect Andromeda is so bad, why would I continue playing it? That's a good question, and I can't adequately answer that because the game really does remind me that I should be playing Zelda Breath of the Wild instead. But there is something here. I cannot lie, the game does have its charm and it does have its good points. But a lot of those good points are severely overwhelmed and swamped out by awful, buggy weirdness. But I gotta say that the game is beautiful. The planets are amazing, they are majestic, and traveling through a alien galaxy, it really does make you feel like you're channeling some amazing sci-fi magic. Like, it feels like we're flying into Stanley Kubrick's freaking imagination, back when he made 2001 Space Odyssey. That's what I feel like, and I genuinely like that. But when I land on a planet and look around, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. But it's all betrayed, it's a facade. It's all betrayed by the rote mechanics of the game, by the weird strategic dismantling of many of the best features of the game. But there is something here. The story is good. The characters, while they are quite cringeworthy 90% of the time, the other 10% of the time they can be awesome. It just depends on you and your experiences with the game so far, whether or not you want to continue. And that's unfortunate. There is a very high threshold here, a very annoying barrier, and that's a very strange thing to do in such a game that has an action-based mainstream feel to it. So my review score for Mass Effect Andromeda is a 68 out of 100. You can see the breakdown of why I feel the way I do here. So Mass Effect Andromeda is not a great game, it's not a terrible game. It's somewhere in between, but its terrible elements do overwhelm its good elements in many times. It's such an intimate, intertwined blend of good and bad that it really just sets the bar back for Mass Effect as a whole. BioWare, you can do better than this. I hope to see classic BioWare come alive again, but I think that classic BioWare is just dust and bones now. I hope you do better in the future, BioWare, and I have a feeling that this will be the last Mass Effect game for a very long time.